So, first of two Playmates phasers that I'm going to show you today. This is the Type 1 phaser, which apparently is the officer's defensive weapon of choice. Well, if you don't give them anything else to shoot with, then yeah, they won't have much choice. So yeah, sure, it's their weapon of choice. Okay. Now, I think this one comes in quite early on in Star Trek Next Generation. The box is dated 1993. Sorry, no, this one is 1994 actually. And it's fairly standard sort of Playmates fare. I haven't actually taken it out of the box yet. I had a quick peek and I think the packaging is in there, which is nice. But it's quite, it's one of their sort of standard prop items. But I think when I picked this up originally, I thought it was the more normal kind of, I think they call it the dolphin phaser. But I've got one of those to show you next. This one is the little sort of dinky hand phaser that they used to use quite early doors, which was very much, smaller than that big chunky one that came later. So it says unclassified data, 2 authentic Star Trek phaser sounds, stunning disruption, realistic light up phaser beam, belt clip for easy access, bonus technical blueprint included, which remains to be seen. Collector's edition 127125. So standard sort of Star Trek Next Generation logo there, lots of price tags on it. It's the top flap there. Takes a couple of AAs apparently, which I'll have to delve for in a moment or two probably. So what have we got here? So it's still saying it's the officer's defensive weapon of choice on the back. It's some sort of odd tagline, but there you go. The text says, he says, squinting, the Type 1 phaser is issued to all senior officers of Starfleet. So it's actually saying this is actually a particular weapon for officers then, rather than everybody else. A bit harsh. They're more compact in size and designed with fewer settings than the Type 2 phaser. The Type 1 phaser discharges the same amount of energy. Really? Set on stun, the Type 1 phaser is capable of incapacitating the central nervous systems of most known life forms. Just as well, their mission isn't about discovering unknown life forms. Oh no, wait, yes it is. Oh well. Arm disrupt, the pulsed protonic charge? Really? Okay. Vaporizes any organic matter instantly. That's a bit harsh. The Type 1 phaser is powered by a single cerium chrylide power cell, I think, which can be recharged indefinitely. As a safety measure, the Type 1 phaser incorporates an interlock code processor, which limits the power functions while aboard any Starfleet vessel. Interesting. This feature can secure against accidental damage to the ship, as well as premature phaser overload. Which is interesting, because in the series you see them set to overload like a lot, as a sort of weapon of last resort. But anyway, an override command can be keyed in by an authorized personnel in the event of an emergency. Such as what? Further access denied, terminal off. There you go. So, collect all the Starfleet accessories. Well, I wouldn't be collecting the accessories, but I thought it would be rude not to have a look at a couple of the phasers at least. I don't actually have an original series phaser. They were quite cool because they were more sort of pistol-y. You could actually have that. They had a full-on hand grip and then a sort of a horizontal bar on top, whereas these are purely handheld. So let's get into this now. Let's have a look. So we know stun control, disruption control, light up emitter, power level indicator, trigger, belt clip. Okay, so let's get into this first and I'll go off and find some batteries. So as you can see, all of the cardboard packaging is in here, so it should be in very good shape. Let's see how big it actually is. It's quite big actually. As I suspected, it isn't actually working, but I'm going to go and find some batteries and we'll see if we can rectify that. Okay, so it's happily working, which is good. But it's got an interesting way of operating, because you actually sort of select which sound effect you want using the buttons, but then the trigger actually activates it. So just pressing these doesn't actually do anything. But this is the, I think this is the, let me just double check. I'm pretty sure this is the standard or more standard stun setting. Yeah, so stun control is on the left, so this is what it sounds like. That's pretty good. I think that does sound very much like an next-gen phaser on stun. This is a bit weirder. So that's supposed to be a disruptor setting, which also has a sort of a blow-up noise at the end of it. But the lights and stuff are still in pretty decent shape, I think. So that's pretty cool. I mean, it does seem to do exactly what it says on the box, literally, you know. It's actually really loud in here. Yeah, take that, evil Romulans. Haha. Cool. So I mean, it's bigger in the hand than I would have thought. I mean, obviously, yes, it's a lump of plastic that lights up and makes noises. I know, I get it. I do, really. But nonetheless, I still think that's cool, and it's got a bigger presence than I thought they were going to give it, considering it's supposed to be the smaller of the two phasers. So let's have a look at the Type 2 phaser now, and then we can compare them. So this is the Type 2 phaser. Now, I thought this one was called a Dolphin, but apparently this is the Cobra head phaser, I believe. And this is the one that was sort of very common from the 3rd season of Star Trek Next Generation. There was another Type 2 phaser that they use in seasons 1 and 2, which is colloquially referred to as the Dustbuster phaser, and that was much more sort of rounded. It wasn't quite as angled as this one is, but apparently toys for that one have been quite rare. But I think a company called Factory was going to be making one, but I'm not quite sure what sort of era that's from. So you can probably get hold of it, and these days people might even be 3D printing it, of course. But this was the sort of the classic phaser from Star Trek Next Generation. It was used to tackle the Borg and all that sort of good stuff. So this one I'd been after for a little while actually, and I only picked this up recently from Birmingham. There were a couple around, but I thought, yeah, I might as well sort of pull the trigger, no pun intended, and pick this one up then. So this one is titled slightly differently to the Type 1 phaser, which apparently is also known as the Cricket phaser. And I wonder if that's a Men in Black reference. But this one is the official Starfleet defensive weapon, and this is what away teams were typically armed with. They never got anything heavier duty than this. Unless they were in serious bother, basically. So this is the one that we most often saw. So I don't think it says a great deal on the front of the box. This has got Bandai on the front of it. So unlike the previous version, this is the European release of this phaser rather than the American release. So yeah, it just says realistic light-up phaser being 4 authentic phaser sounds from the Star Trek TV show. So that's a slight improvement on the previous one, because this I think is the later one. Actually, no, it isn't. This is the 1993 release. So it's got a stun control, disruption control. It's got a belt clip, the trigger as with the previous one, power pack grip, light-up phase beam emitter. So basically the same. So I'm surprised it says it's got 4 sounds, but perhaps there's something more to it. 2 replaceable R6s, but that just means AA. Press the stun control for flashing laser light, beam and stun sound. Press the disruptor control for laser light, beam and disruption sound. So exactly the same thing for both of them, just reading off this bit here. Interestingly, they haven't done the sort of the readout bit like they did for the Type 1 phaser, where they had the a sort of a terminal readout of what it was all about and what it could do. So they've taken a slightly different approach with this one. Be interesting to know whether, I wonder if it varies according to whether or not it's the US or the European versions, because they're putting the translated text on here. They've actually got less space than they might have had they done that with the earlier, the Type 1 phaser box that I looked at. So, question mark there, I guess. But but that's about it for the actual the box itself. So let's get into this one. Apparently I've got 269682 in terms of actual sort of item number. Now this one does appear to be sealed, but I suspect it has been out. Yes, on the other end is less sealed. But again, it has got the innards, and this one's actually got the paperwork as well. Let's have a quick look at the paperwork. I imagine it's not hugely exciting, but it is there, which is nice. Slightly crumpled. Now I think the previous one was supposed to have a blueprint in it as well, but it didn't. But I don't know if there's a blueprint in this one. We can probably make that out reasonably well, I suspect. Let me just add a little bit more light to the scene for what it's worth. Quite a big piece of paper to get zoomed in on. There we go. So we can get that all in one shot there. So you can replace the light bulb apparently if you wish to, and then you can just activate it as shown on the box there, basically. Various different flavours of language on that one, so which is helpful for a European market, of course. So let's get into it proper then. Very cool. Nothing left in the box. Okay, so again, it's good weight to it. It's a nice weight to it. So again, just a choice of button functions there, and I shall go and pop a couple of. I assume it's, yes, I think I said it was double A's, didn't I? Again, and we'll have a look at that in more detail. So you can see the curve to it. So this is why I thought this might have been the Dolphin, because it's got a little bit of a curve to its back, but it's not as pronounced. I think the Dolphin came in with Star Trek Nemesis, because it's so quite late in the day. I'm not sure what they use on Voyager. I mean, Voyager uses phaser rifles quite a lot, but I think they use a slightly different handheld Type 2, possibly. But let me pop some batteries in. Right, that was an incredibly snug fit. It's strange they put the belt clip there, because it feels like that ought to be the trigger, but of course it isn't. So standard stun setting here. Let me just turn the lights off so you can see the actual phaser effect a little bit better. I don't know if that last little burst is intentional or not. So you can hold it down and keep it going. I just wonder if that one's a little bit, this one's a little bit flaky. I don't know. I was looking at the box actually to see whether or not. This is interesting because see this sticker here. The sticker is not the same as what's displayed on the box, and it's not. You know, it's never going to be a sort of a light up one. But I just wonder if someone's 16819. But the colour's different. If you have a look at the box, you can see that the coloration of it is a sort of yellow, green, red. And I just wonder if someone's perhaps taken that and coloured it in differently, because that's clearly not as shown on the box, which is, I think, is interesting. And these stickers are a bit worn as well, but I guess maybe they're always stickers. I mean, it looks right. It just seems a bit odd that that's differently coloured. But I guess that could just be a European variation. Of course, it's possible. Perhaps they've used a US packaging, but it's got a slightly different production European-wise. So that was the stun, and this is the disruptor. I'm not entirely convinced that those are as they should be. I don't know. That sounds right, but then it sounds like it tries to fire the disruptor setting one at the end of it. So I just wonder if this one's seen slightly better days and it's just not quite happy with life. I don't know. Don't know why that would be particularly. I mean, ironically, the Type 1 phaser, when you compare the two side by side, is almost more impressive, because this one is sort of brighter when you actually fire it up. And it sounds longer. So it's kind of interesting, isn't it? It's not what I would have thought, because I really think that this Type 1 is way bigger. This should be much bigger, I think, personally. I mean, for me, it's fine, but I think, you know, my hands are probably not the biggest, but I suppose for a kid, that makes sense, and it makes sense they both be scaled the same. But given that a lot of people probably would have been using these as props back in the day, you know, I think perhaps I would have expected this one to be somewhat bigger than this one. But they've obviously decided to scale them similarly, I think. But I mean, they're both a really good weight. They both feel really solid. I don't think you'd be too worried about either of these getting sort of damaged in sort of, you know, vigorous play between kids. That's not going to be a problem. But then there's nothing to, I don't know, would kids like these? I don't know. Because they're quite limited in terms of the electronics, and they haven't got sort of normal triggers, they've just got buttons, but then that's entirely as it should be. So, you know, they're sort of okay. Still think that's wonky. This one might have better batteries in it, of course, but I still think this sound effect is better than this sound effect. I don't know. I mean, this one seems to have come out afterwards, so perhaps they improved it for that version. I don't know. But that is the Type 1 and Type 2 phaser for you there from Playmates. So, mid-90s. I mean, I guess you can't expect too much, and I'm sure that there have been many other you know, sort of releases of these too. But it's quite nice to have them both. You know, this for me is definitely sort of cool. I remember a really cool sort of flick that Data did with it once when he was holstering it, and they did come with sort of proper holsters and stuff as well. So it's, you know, there are supposed to be very versatile things as well. So you didn't necessarily have to stun or disrupt an individual. You could also sort of use them as kind of welding torches and that sort of thing. You know, and you could, as I mentioned earlier, you can set them to overload as well, which was a thing. And then you just recharge them every time you want to reload them, basically. But apparently this one would only sort of fire so much at its maximum setting, and it had a sort of built-in cooldown and stuff. And of course, the weird thing about them is there's no sights. But apparently the actual unit itself is supposed to help you hit what you're aiming at. That's kind of the idea. So they sort of auto-target for you. Which I guess is a nice contrivance, because it means that they can just do whatever they want to do on screen to, you know, to sort of show them actually hitting their target, which makes life a little bit easier for the producers, I guess. There you go. So yeah, cool. But kind of better than I thought, really. But then, you know, Playmates do make good tough toys, and those are both good tough toys. There's no, you know, there's fair dues to them. So yeah, cool. If you've got any other examples that you found particularly good of these, then let me know in the comments, because I'm guessing these are not, well, you know, they're definitely not fully screen accurate, but, you know, they're not bad. They're not bad. And they've got belt clips, so they're quite practical like that. So if you wanted to wear them around as cosplay items, I guess, you know, they'd kind of pass a brief inspection, even if they're not as good as more professionally done ones. But yeah, let me know if you've picked up a far better example of either of these, and who made it. So that's it for this one. Cheers for now.